Hi everybody, my name is Josh Allen. I am the author of this book right here, Out to Get You, 13 Tales of Weirdness and Woe, by me and illustrated by the brilliant Sarah J. Coleman. This book looks like this when the lights are on, and it looks like this when the lights are off, because this book glows in the dark. I'm also the author of a book which will come out in August titled Only If You Dare, 13 Stories of Darkness and Doom, and that book is available for pre-order wherever books are sold. I'm making this video in celebration of World Storytelling Day, which is March 20th, 2021. And I thought that it would be fun today for me, in celebration of World Storytelling Day, to share a story with you. When I was a kid, the spookiest time of day for me was the time in between when I had to turn off my light at the end of the day and I had to get myself across my bedroom to my bed. Because in complete darkness at that time of day, when I had to get across my bedroom, that's when I was convinced that the monsters would come for me. That the things hiding under my bed, behind my dresser, in my closet, in that vulnerable moment, that's when they would come. And so, because I write spooky stories, I wrote a story about that. And in honor of World Storytelling Day, I would like to share that story with you today. It's titled The Bedtime Routine by me. Ethan had always believed in the night things. He had never seen them or heard them, but he believed they were there. Under his bed, in his closet, tucked behind the corner of his dresser. They were the reason he hated switching off his bedroom light each night. Because once he did, he had to dart in absolute darkness to his bed and bury himself under his covers before any of the night things had time to slither out from their hiding places and come for him. True, the space between his light switch and his bed was only about 8 feet, but the night things, Ethan knew, were fast. And they were waiting. They were always waiting. So each night, when he clicked off his light and the darkness took over, that space of 8 feet might as well have been 8 miles. 8 miles of enemy territory peppered with landmines and fire pits. At least, that's how it felt to Ethan. Night after night, he darted across his pitch-black bedroom with perfect blazing speed, because if he didn't, if he messed up or tripped, well, that's what he believed anyway. What he'd always believed. At bedtime, he was like a whizzing bandit, streaking from his light switch to his bed in the perfect black of night. Here is how he did this. Step 1. Before flicking off his light, he'd stand as far as he could from his light switch while reaching back with one arm. He'd keep one finger, his middle one, the longest on the switch. This would put him a fraction of an inch closer to his bed, a fraction of an inch closer to safety. And with the night things, every millisecond counted. Step 2. He'd map out the path to his bed in his mind. He'd scan the gray carpet and look for obstacles, and he'd imagine himself taking the necessary steps, leaping over the dirty t-shirt there, landing with his right foot on the rug just there, and then jumping and twisting and coming down onto his bed, where he'd whip the covers over his head like a protective shield. He'd stand at the light switch and picture this over and over, like mental practice. Step 3, he'd breathe, and he'd give himself a little countdown. 3, 2, 1. Step 4, he'd blast off. Like lightning, he'd press the switch and act out his plan perfectly. Over the dirty t-shirt, right foot on the rug, leap, land, covers, breathe, and safe. He'd done it this way for years, every single night. It was part of his bedtime routine, like changing into his pajamas or brushing his teeth. But one night, The night before his 11th birthday, Ethan positioned himself at the light switch like he always did, and he reached back with his long middle finger like he always did. Then he planned his route. Watch out for those rollerblades. Don't trip on that backpack. And he began his countdown. 3, 2, 1. But he didn't flick the switch. Hang on, he said to himself. I'm almost 11. He relaxed his legs and let his arms fall to his sides. Am I getting too old for this? He thought of the night things. If he was too slow, they would come for him, wouldn't they? He'd believe that. He'd always believed that. But on this night, he held his breath. He stood perfectly still, and he listened. There was nothing. No silent hissing, no shifting in the closet, no faint breathing. He was alone, completely alone. The night things, he said to himself, they're not real. And just like that, he knew he was right. He was almost 11, and he knew the truth, and he felt suddenly like he was growing up, right there, right in front of his light switch. There were no night things. So there was no reason to stretch his arm, no reason to flick the switch with his longest middle finger, no reason to plan a speedy route across his floor, no reason to run. I'll be fine, he told himself, letting his chest puff out a little. Of course I'll be fine. So, leaning against the wall, he made a new bedtime routine, a grown-up bedtime routine. Step 1. He would reach toward the bedroom wall casually and flick the light switch with the side of his hand. Step 2. He would stand in the darkness, waiting for a few seconds for his eyes to adjust. Step 3. He would feel his way slowly, casually, across the carpet, maybe bumping into a basketball or a stack of books along the way. Step 4. He would settle onto his bed and lie on top of the covers, his arms spread wide, because he was safe, he told himself. He had always been safe. He breathed. He did not look around his room. He did not scan the route to his bed. He did not make a plan. And he did not start his little countdown. He just flicked the light, waited a few seconds for his eyes to adjust, and began the slow, dark stroll to his bed. See, he told himself, feeling almost like an adult. Almost. I'm fine. But just then, in the darkness, something shifted. Ethan stopped. There was a quiet bump, followed by a low hiss. And was that breathing in and out, in and out? Prickles rose on Ethan's neck. Dark shadows on the floor shifted. The walls seemed to close in, and Ethan knew. This was the moment the night things had been waiting for. This precise moment. In their hiding places, they had been so patient. For years, they'd been waiting for Ethan to grow up just a little, to stop running, and now, finally, he had. A lump rose in his throat. The temperature in the room seemed to drop. 5 feet from his bed, Ethan tried to bolt, but he had no plan. No clear path, no routine. Darkness pressed in. He stumbled blindly into a pair of rollerblades, and he tripped. He landed on the floor with a thump. Then, with ferocious speed, the night things came. The end. If you like spooky stories, like I do, I hope that you'll check out to Get You, 13 Tales of Weirdness and Woe, and I hope you consider pre-ordering Only If You Dare, 13 Stories of Darkness and Doom. I'm Josh Allen, and happy World Storytelling Day, everybody.